Hey, Mr. Richards here. Let's go over the Algebra 1 9-5 homework assignment on the quadratic formula. Well, quadratic formula is just this, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So, helps to identify our a is equal to 1, b is going to be negative 2, c is going to be negative 15. And so let's put these numbers in the formula. X is going to equal negative b. So, b was negative 2, so negative b would be positive 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 15 all over 2 divided by a, which I don't know why I didn't write a in there. A is just 1. Show you. X is going to equal 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared is 4. Now, negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 15, and negative times a negative is a positive 60. That's all going to be divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. And sometimes these work out nice. X is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 64 divided by 2. And we can do the square root of 64, you know. That's just going to be 8. So 2 plus or minus 8 all over 2, all divided by 2. And so now, x could equal 2 plus 8 divided by 2, or x could equal 2 minus 8 divided by 2. 2 plus 8 is 10, divided by 2, x equals 5, or 2 minus 8 is negative 6 divided by 2, so x could be negative 3. So my solution set here, negative 3 or 5 for that x. Continuing on. Number 2. Our a, again this time, is 1. Our b is negative 10. And our c is 16. So x is going to equal, negative b would be a positive 10 this time, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 16, all over 2 times 1. So x is going to equal 10 plus or minus the square root, 10, negative 10 squared is 100, minus 4 times 1, negative 4 times 1, negative 4 times 16 is going to be minus 64 here. All over 2 times 1 is 2. So x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 36, that's convenient, all divided by 2. So 10 plus or minus square root of 36 is 6 divided by 2. And from here, x could be 10 plus 6 divided by 2, or x could equal 10 minus 6 divided by 2. 10 plus 6 is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 10 minus 6 is 4. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our solution set for x here is 2 and 8. It's a pretty bad 8. I'm going to rewrite that in so we can actually read it. All right, let's move on to 3. It's nice when we don't have to take fancy square roots. We'll see if that comes back on this one. Now for the quadratic formula to work, we need to make this equation equal 0. The way we're going to do that is to add 10 to both sides to get started. So that way this cancels out. Negative 10 plus 10 was the 0 we're looking for. So x squared minus 8x plus 10 equals 0. So our a is equal to 1 our b is equal to negative 8, and our c is equal to 10. And let's put that in the quadratic formula. X equals negative b, so a positive 8, plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10, all over 2a, which is, for a third time, 2 times 1. It's not always going to be that simple. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. X equals 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared is 64. 4 times 1 times 10 is 40, so minus 40, all over 2 times 1 is 2. And so x will equal 8 plus or minus the square root. 64 minus 40 is 24, all divided by 2. First example so far on this assignment where we're going to have to actually take a square root here. So, I mean, with the decimal, we took square roots before, but to get a decimal now. So let's split this. Well, we don't have to split it yet. Let's figure out what the square root of 64, or square root of 24 is first here. Got a little calculator up here to help us with that. Square root of 24 equals 4.898979, yikes. So let's just write this out as 4.89 for now. 8 plus or minus 4.89 divided by 2. So let's split it out now. X could equal 8 plus 4.89 divided by 2, or x could equal 8 minus 4.89 divided by 2. Well, the adding one, a little more straightforward. X equals 12.89 divided by 2. And so 12.89 divided by 2 is 6.445. And to round this to the nearest tenth, it's just going to stay 6 4/10. Now for this 8 minus 4.89, that is 3 11/100. So x could equal 3 11/100 divided by 2. And 3 11/100 divided by 2 is equal to 1.55. And so nearest tenth, rounds actually going to round up this time. So 1 6/10. So our answer here, x is 1 6/10 or 6 4/10. And I know sometimes depending on when you round, when you take the square root, you might be off by a tenth or two. So as long as you're, within reason here, I'm typically pretty happy. In 11, 12, and 13, we're going to use the discriminant for each equation, then determine the real value solutions to the equation. Well, the discriminant, remember, is this part inside the square root here, this b squared minus 4ac thing. And so for all of these, we need to identify our a, our b, and our c, and substitute it into that discriminant part, that part inside the square root. And so we're set equal to 0, so we can say a equals 1, b equals -9, and c equals 21. And so now as we look at b squared minus 4ac, we're looking at -9 squared minus 4 times 1 times 21. -9 squared is 81 minus, let's see, 4 times 1 is 4. Duh. Times 21. 4 times 21 is 84. You subtract these, you get a -3. And so since you can't take a negative square root, your question would be done. It's over. So there are 0 real solutions because you cannot take a negative square root. at least in the number system we have here with real numbers. Later in high school, you'll get to, well, are there different numbers other than real numbers? Here, we're still set equal to 0. Answer to that one is yes, there are. A is 2, B is negative 11, C is 10. So as we go to b squared minus 4ac, we're looking at negative 11 squared minus 4 times 2 times 10. Negative 11 squared is 121. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 10 is 80. And 121 minus 80 is 41. That's a positive number. So as we did in our previous examples in 1, 2, and 3, we had a positive number that we could add or subtract. And so this ends up being 2 real solutions. So when you get a positive value in the discriminant, you get 2 real solutions. Keeping it real. Now, this is not set up to equal 0 yet, so we do need to add 16 to both sides before we identify our a, b, and c. So 9x squared plus 24x plus 16 is going to equal 0. And so our a is equal to 9, our b is equal to 24, and our c is equal to 16. Those are some nice size numbers here. B squared minus 4ac. Let's see, that's going to be 24 squared minus 4 times 9 times 16. Well, that's why we have the calculator here. We're going to do 24 squared, and that's going to equal 576. And if we just take a look at what is 4 times 19, I'm sorry, 4 times 9 times 16, that's going to also equal, typo, that's going to equal 576 as well. And so when you subtract 576 from 576, you get 0. Doesn't mean you have a problem. The square root of 0 is 0. So when you're to solve this, you would just be left with negative b divided by 2a. This thing cancels out. You have plus or minus nothing. So you're going to end up with 1 real solution. So with the discriminants, when it's negative, you have no solutions. When it's positive, you have 2 solutions. When you have a 0, it's 1 real solution. And that's it. Good luck.